Hearing the voice of love. We hear lots of voices, don't we? Voices in our culture, voices in society, voices in our family, voices from church, voices from pastors, voices in a sermon, like even today, voices everywhere. And I don't think I'm that psychotic, but I hear voices all the time. We all hear voices. We all have thoughts constantly going in our minds, don't we? And often they're harsh, critical, judgmental, and condemning. So depending on where you go to church this morning and whether they preach on the lectionary or not, you might hear the story of where Jesus hears a voice. And it's a beautiful story in Mark chapter 1. You can find it in all the Gospels. But in Mark, we read the story of Jesus going to be baptized in the Jordan River by John the Baptist. And it says, as Jesus was coming up out of the water, it's as if the heavens were torn open and the Spirit descended on him in the form of a dove. And he heard a voice from heaven saying to him, "You are my Son, whom I love, with whom I am well pleased." And this voice of love from the Father, God, that Jesus hears, sends him out into the desert and into the wilderness and launches him on his ministry. But his identity was firm and sure in the love of God. And I want to offer to you this morning and have us imagine that the same voice that spoke love to Jesus is the same voice that speaks to us and says the same thing. You are my son, you are my daughter, whom I love, with you I am fully pleased. And many of you are already objecting to this and saying, well, no, that can't be because Jesus was the Son of God and it's different for him. Is it? Is it? Aren't you also a child of God? In John chapter 1, it says, to all who received him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God, born of Spirit. And in 1 John chapter 3, verse 1, it says, what great love the Father has lavished on us that we should be called children of God. And that is what we are. We're not just called it, we are that. So I want to offer to you this morning that the only difference between Jesus and us regarding this voice is that Jesus believed it and we don't. We work so hard to be loved by God and to be fully pleasing to God. We already are. And I think this is a litmus test in some ways. And I've talked recently about condemnation and no condemnation. But why is it that we are so condemning of others? Why are we so harsh and judgmental and critical and condemning of others? Perhaps it's because we haven't listened to and heard this voice of love and felt it in our hearts and spirits. Perhaps that's how it works. When we're so harsh, judgmental, critical, and self-condemning of ourselves, and then it spills over and we do the same things with other people. So I offer this to you this morning. Simply hear the voice of love. Hear the voice of love. You are a son, you are a daughter, a child of God. And God says to you, you are my daughter, you are my son, whom I love. With you I am fully pleased. And even if we look at other versions, it says beloved. And that even ramps it up to call yourself beloved. And that reminds me of a poem that I'll end with by Raymond Carver, late fragment. It says, did you get what you wanted from this life? Even so, I did. And what did you want? To call myself beloved, to feel myself beloved on this earth. So maybe taking half an hour this day, each day this week, or a half a minute, and not only think this thought and hear that voice, but feel it in your heart and soul as well. So, Beautiful day. Frost on the trees and the snow. And there she is, and she has a log that she's working on there. She's feeling herself beloved and frolicking in the snow. So, good day. And until next time, may you live all the days of your life.